Stemming from a post that I made on Facebook yesterday morning, there was a very deep and robust conversation that ensued with people on the for end, people on the opposing end, and I kind of just wanted to debunk some of the ideologies that I found yesterday through that conversation in hopes that I could take this to a broader platform and enlighten more people, or at least try to challenge some different people's perceptions. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Okay, you guys, as I said, I shared something on Facebook yesterday, and it sparked a very deeply rooted dialogue and conversation amongst people not only in the millennial age group, but people who are a little bit older, so some Gen Xers, some baby boomers kind of jumped on it too. And what I wanted to be able to do was to dispel and debunk some of the ideology surrounding the topic in which we were talking about. But before I get to all of that good stuff, I'm going to go ahead and read you the post and kind of talk you through it a little bit. So the post was at Underground Mommy, telling a little girl to not wear shorts in her own home because there's men in the house. The fuck? LMAO, what type of men in the house? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So I took it the way that I took it. I shared it. I thought that it was funny that she added what she said on it. I could also resonate with that scenario, and I could also see the deeply rooted issues within that scenario. So the first comment started out by saying, "But you don't understand this, do you?" So then that's what pretty much sparked that debate, because I really just wanted people to understand the woman perspective of what's actually happening here. So I wanted to pull out some of the top comments and sort of debunk them, if you will. Number one, men are men and we're sexual and we're very visual. For me, I'm just like, there is no physical proof outside of the reproductive organs that men are biologically different than women. So to use this boys will be boys mentality is a complete slap in the face, because if women still are sexual creatures and we're also visual as well, then why is the onus put on us for only us to be able to have and exercise self-control? The issue with this is that a young girl is in the comfort of her own home, and she should be able to do and wear whatever she pleases, because that is the one true place that you are supposed to be safe or feel safe, is in your own home. The issue is that you are now allowing somebody else to come into her home, and because that new person has entered her home, that has dictated and altered the way that she is able to live her life within her home. The other issue here is that because these men are here, we are worried and cautioned that these men could potentially look at this young girl as a sexual object, and because of that sexual appetite from the men's behalf, we go and we alter what our daughters are wearing, and we police those bodies because they are sexualizing, or because they have the potential to sexualize those bodies. We don't put nearly enough emphasis on educating and teaching young boys who grow up to be those very grown men who we are allowing into our homes and making our daughters change. We're not giving them the education that they need in order to practice self-control, in order to understand what consent means, in order to have self-respect, or have respect for women in general. That's the issue. We're putting too much of the onus on the woman or on the young girls, and we're showing them that they are not as important on the back end as these young boys are. How many times have we gone into a home or had female company and the young boy was told, "Oh, well, you can't wear those hoop shorts because you're kind of bouncing around," or "You need to put a little shirt on because your little bird chest out and you might be seen or viewed as tantalizing to my girlfriends who are about to come over." That almost never happens. And for me, that double standard is disheartening, is discouraging, and it's also dangerous to show young women. The other issue here, and this is one that Portia Brown brought up on the thread, is that this type of ideology places the man's need for sexual activity above the woman's safety. Two, one thing that was brought up was that men make the rules of the house, and it is up to everyone in the home to abide by those rules. Now, I can't help but say this with a raised cheek and a chuckle on my spirit, because that is the most 1950 shit I've ever heard come out of somebody's mouth in 2007 fucking teen. I'm just so confused as to how we're living now and people are still having this very sexist and misogynist thought process. Like, Let me debunk it. If you are making the rules for this house and this is your house and you are here to, and two of the words that I heard was to provide and protect, the men continue to bring up this idea of protection, and I totally understand that. But my issue is, if you can alter what your young daughter is wearing in the home for her own safety, why don't you just check the people who are coming into your home at the door? If you have anybody in your household that you feel like you can't trust around your children, then they shouldn't be there. If you even have a piece of fear in your heart that any of your friends could take a side eye to your daughter or to a young child in your home, that person should have never crossed the line of being welcomed into your home. Hell, that person shouldn't even be in your friendship circle. So for you to say that men make the rules of the house and that we have to abide by those rules, then why aren't you putting us or creating a safe environment for us to do us in? Riddle me that. Number 3, make her change in her own home. So I kind of brought that up, and that wasn't necessarily something that was on the opposing end of the perspective, but that was just something that I wanted to bring back up to kind of debunk and dispel and show my perspective of why that's dangerous and why that shouldn't be happening in someone's own personal home where they lay their head at night, where they're supposed to be protected, where they're supposed to feel secure, where they're also supposed to be feeling free. I just don't understand how we are so quick to police our daughters and to address our daughters when we aren't addressing anybody else. It's so interesting to me how easy it is to have a conversation about, you can't wear those shorts, but when Uncle Chester the molester is raping his daughter, we're not having a dialogue about that because we're too uncomfortable to bring up that sort of a conversation. We're easy and quick to shun out the cousin in the family who may be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. But once again, we're not having the necessary conversations that need to be had. We're not talking about people who are causing bodily harm. Those people aren't causing bodily harm. These rapists in the families are. These sexual predators are. This is where these type of conversations need to start, and they need to start when the men are young, when the boys are young. You need to catch them and tell them that they need to have respect for women, that they need to understand boundaries, that they need to understand self-control, that they need to practice consent and understand what consent means in any and every type of a situation. They need to understand that women are not their property for their sexual pleasure. Number 4, and I quote, "If she's dressed like a slut, she'll be approached like one." Once again, this is one of those things that I'm just like, how have we come this far to still have people who have this ideology and who are using this rhetoric and proposing this narrative of rape or victim blaming culture? The issue with that is that no matter what I'm wearing on my body, it has nothing to do with A, how much I respect or do not respect myself, because I saw a lot of those arguments. But then B, it is not an open invitation to come grab my pussy. Period. And that's the end of it. It is not an open invitation for you to see me as your property and use me for all of your sexual desires and fantasies. That is not what that's for. No matter if I have on my birthday suit in the club or a nun suit on the street, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. The issue is that, how many of us have seen like those catcalling videos, like the woman walked through the streets of New York for X many hours and look at how many people catcalled her or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. As a woman, you have to understand that it doesn't matter what we have on. I can have on the tightest, the turtleneck up to literally the top of my neck, and I can be covered through my elbow, past to my wrist, all the way down to my ankle, and I will still be hit on and hollered at and catcalled. So no, that does not change anything. So saying that what I have on my body is grounds for somebody to come and to take me is absolutely unacceptable. And the even deeper issue of all of this is that what you are implying is that because what she wore, because of what she had on her body, because of what she was wearing, it is her fault that she was assaulted. It was her fault that she was preyed upon. It was her fault that you could not control your sexual desires. What I really hope for this is that it sparks a deeper conversation. I feel like a lot of the times in the African American community, a lot of topics similar to this one are very tabooed and we don't talk about them. And my hopes are that maybe this can spark a wider discussion beyond me, beyond my Facebook page, beyond my friends, beyond my family, and that we're having these types of conversations because this type of rhetoric, this type of ideology, this type of narrative is something that is so dangerous and is hindering the African American community from moving forward on one accord. We need to grab our baby boys while they are young and teach them about practicing self-control. Teach them about practicing consent, what consent means. Teach them that women are not their property. We need to have these conversations young so that when it's time for me to have my daughters, I can feel comfortable about them being around the men in America.